And we're back here to talk about some, I'm not going to say updates, but we got to talk a little bit of recruiting because, guys, 25 class is pretty much done, so there's not a lot to talk about. But there's a big fish still hanging out there for Oklahoma, and that is the one and only, the five-star offensive tackle, Michael Fasusi out of Lewisville, Texas. And if anybody out there is telling you they know where Fasusi's going to go, that they've been told or they've heard, I'd hate to tell you, Fasusi ain't talking. He's pretty much shut it down. I get the feeling he has an idea, but he ain't really telling anybody. I think the picks and the favorability for him to land at Oklahoma, that's becoming popular at this point. Remember, earlier in the year, it was Texas. Now it's swinging in Oklahoma's favor. And at this point, a week away from his commitment, you would rather be the team that has the lead going into it. So today I'm joined by Coop over at Unfair Sports because not only do we need to talk about Michael Fasusi, but we do want to talk about the 2026 offensive line class and what that's potentially going to look like, because Michael Fasusi might have some ramifications on what the 2026 class looks like. So, Coop, how are you doing today?
Hey, doing good. And yeah, 6 days away. So it felt like when he dropped that August date, it felt like that was, last year. So it's a 3-year recruitment finally coming to a close.
Yes, coming to a close. And Michael Fasusi, is this the biggest? Will this be the biggest recruiting win in the Brent Venables era if they win Michael Fasusi? I mean, you've gotten Peyton Bowen and Arnold and PJ. PJ wasn't a 5-star when they were recruiting him. Same thing with Jackson Arnold. They're both 4 stars and grew into 5-star territory. I think Peyton Bowen was the only one, but he wasn't a consensus 5-star across the board. Fasusi he's a trench player. This is somebody that every team wants. It's a position of need. Is this the biggest win that Brent Venables and the staff will have?
I think it's the most impactful because, I mean, right outside of your quarterback position, I mean, the offensive line, defensive line guys, because you forgot David Stone, who, again, was a big piece. But Bill Bedenbaugh has, he's taken guys with great potential and turned them into NFL players. To be able to work with the raw materials that Michael Fasusi presents, you put one of the greatest offensive linemen to come out here in the past couple of years with the greatest offensive line coach. And I think that's where you get really, really excited as an Oklahoma fan. Plus, I mean, I think that it has something to do with who you're beating. So if you beat Texas A&M, if you beat Missouri and Texas for Michael Fasusi, that is big because, I mean, that's another talking point that you have. You're in the SEC, so you don't have that hurdle anymore. You've reeled in 5 stars at other positions. You don't have that hurdle anymore, and so you bring in Michael, and it's a big piece. So I mean, it's arguably the best win for this staff since they've been here.
Yeah. Now, looking at Fasusi, I do think all of the intel at this point is pretty much pointing Oklahoma's direction. You do have Texas and Texas A&M still looming, but it almost feels like Texas is bowing out of this race. You've seen predictions in favor going in for Brooks, who's a 25 offensive lineman, and you're hearing a lot of talk about them going after some 2026 targets that are going to be top tier. So, I mean, just in all honesty, being a week away, where do you think Fasusi ends up landing? Because I think everybody knows where I sit at this point. It's been pretty known for a year now.
I mean, with everything that you can gather, because I fully agree with you that anybody that says like I've now been told that Michael Fasusi is going XYZ, that's not true. That's why when you're seeing some of these predictions, and Brandon Drum put one out, and the words that he said was with the conversations and how Oklahoma feels, that's what you're going to start seeing. Now, I will say I think he's a Sooner. I thought he's been, since his last visit, that's when my mind was pretty much made up. Through conversations with some people around him and close to him, that's kind of made, they've been completely left in the dark too. I know that Sean Hutton is a great friend and he is an Oklahoma commit. And his exact words to me were, Michael says that he wants to see my face when I tell him, when he tells me where he's going. So, you start putting the little pieces together and you think, all right, this is a Sooner win. I will say this is this is a content game. We all are in a content game. Recruiting news is a content game. It is not NFL reporting. It's not even college football recording. It's a content game. So in the next 6 days, you're going to see, probably starting on Monday, you're going to see reports from A&M with some cause for optimism. You're going to see something from Missouri with cause for optimism. They've got to keep these fan bases engaged so that they're going to watch, because if it's an all out, like everybody's flooding to Oklahoma and there's no chance at all, the engagement disappears and that hope disappears for them. So you're going to see some of that stuff. It's not going to be definitive, and it's definitely not going to be made up. Like, there's going to be angles that people are going to throw out there, but trust me, this is one of the most coveted guys in the class of 2025. And for anybody to have moved on from him, that's not true. You're going to fight for Michael Fasusi until December.
Yeah, and Michael Fasusi, I've said it before, I think he's the best left tackle in this class, and I don't think it's close. Andrew Babalola plays right tackle, but I think David Sanders plays left tackle, and David Sanders is ranked a little bit above Fasusi. So if that tells you anything, listen, Fasusi, he's going to be a gem, and there's a lot of teams that need tackles, and left tackle is one of the most coveted positions in football in general. So Michael Fasusi's got a decision on his day. And listen, with him not talking to reporters and the media right now, it's going to drum up more of a conversation and where is he going to go? People are going to have to draw narratives and storylines because Fasusi just ain't talking to anybody. So if Oklahoma lands Fasusi, do you think they're done? Because I would be pretty confident in saying I think Lamont Rogers could flip if Fasusi ends up committing to Oklahoma.
I mean, yeah, that's being a narrative that's kind of being tossed back out there. And if that's what the coaching staff wants to do, I think that you've made a comment to me kind of in private a couple of times that, once that's done, I mean, you've got Christian Jones is pretty much the only other target that you're still in the battle for. And I think that goes into the season. I don't think that that's going to happen before school season starts, high school or college. So that frees up staff to start working on, some Hail Mary, opportunities. Also, how Oklahoma fares this year will drum up some new conversations, because it's a good piece. And you hear that this coaching staff, I mean, they are legitimate. When it's about the relationships, they will continue to reach out and they will continue to talk. And, I sat down with a lot of the parent interviews, and that came up multiple times about how the Oklahoma staff just was always there and always cared. And even day after day, letting these people know that, they're thinking about them. And it is a priority, because they do invest. Once they've invested and diagnosed who they want to go after, they take a place in their heart. And so it's more than just an athlete that can help them win football games. They fall in love with the people too. So I think that you take a run at Rogers. You probably take a run at a couple of other guys too. As you are sitting in, because you don't want this 2026 class is going to fill up pretty quickly, kind of how the 25 did. But that doesn't mean that you need to rush into it. So what do you have for the next 6 months? Because game days are going to be a bunch of 26 guys, and so I would watch the recruiting updates here and on other shots, other shows, just for surprise visitors on game days, because I mean it's going to be a bunch of future prospects. Come time for games in Norman, because your class is set.
Yeah, and you kind of alluded to it. And before we jump into 26, the one thing that I want people to understand is if they land Fasusi, I think there's a chance they still get Christian Jones. It's all dependent on Nebraska losing games, right? If Nebraska is 6-0, 7-0 by the time they go into Ohio State, they're getting Christian Jones. I think you're going to see Oklahoma, especially if they're undefeated by the time they play Ole Miss, Alabama. They're going to try to flip somebody that we're not talking about. Whether that's, I mean, I think on the defensive line, you'll see them try to go after somebody like a Malik Autry. But I think, they'll go after somebody, they'll throw out an offer, and Oklahoma will try to flex their muscles a little bit. But going into 26, Fasusi, I think, has a crucial role into how Oklahoma is able to recruit 26, because if you land Fasusi, this offensive line class this year was elite, and it's going to be hard to recruit it elite again at another year in a row when you've got 3 guys that you think could be bona fide starters in the next couple of years on this offensive line. So I think 26 will be a little bit lighter of a class on the offensive line, but you'll probably still see them want to take about 4 to 5 offensive linemen. I'm kind of thinking about 4 guys right now, leaving 1 spot open for somebody that's like an eval later on, because they're going to continue to do that. But right now, I have one of my favorite targets in the 26 class, Felix Ojo. He's got over 35 total offers. He's got every offer that an offensive lineman would want. And then you've got Maxwell Robinson. He's another offensive lineman, inside guy out of Derby, Kansas. And then you got Noah Best, 6'3" offensive lineman out of Midlothian, Texas. And then finally you wrap it up with Drew Evers. And if that's familiar, it's because it's Nick Evers' younger brother. But Drew Evers is an absolutely talented offensive tackle. And who knows? Oklahoma could go 2-2. They could take 3 tackles, 1 inside guy. I don't know what that's going to look like yet, but I think the vibes are pretty strong with some of these guys that Oklahoma's looking at in 2026.
Yeah, and you're already starting to see, like one of the guys out of Colorado, Deacon Schmidt, is a guy that I absolutely love. I think that he's got a great athletic frame. I did a film review on him, and just in conversation with him, like, Oklahoma is one of the is his first big offer, and he's in a spot where there's not a lot of focus up there in northern Colorado. So he's got some of the local folks looking at him, but he's a guy who, he really, really reminds me of, when a Gabe Eichert. Gabe was recruited as a tight end, but he had that frame that he could put some more, body weight on. So I like him. And I forget his first name, but Iheanacho.
Emmanuel Iheanacho.
Emmanuel Iheanacho. He is another guy that I think that he is going to be very, very coveted, and a lot of people are going to be running at him. So he's one that, if Bill Beanbo, really, finds that that's somebody he wants to take a shot at, I'm pretty excited to see him. And then Papunga Toa Katoa, which is one of the funnest names out there. Did a review on him. He is a monster of a guy. He is in that 360-pound range. But he's a guy who is a very, very, very good on his feet, very quick on his feet. And so you've got kind of a cool, like you said, you got kind of a cool opportunity, because you've got 3, solid starters. And then you've got really, really good options, in this 25 class. If you round it out with Fasusi, Hollenbeck, Afalava, and Foje, that's a hell of a recruiting class for Bill Beatonbow and staff. And so the 26 class, that's where he has to move on to next, is for his recruiting pieces there. I know that some of the conversations that he had with guys like Ty Haywood and Andrew Babalola, Lamont Rogers, Fasusi, those things started years ago. And because this was a very, very fertile year in the region for offensive line recruiting. And so I think maybe 26 looks a little bit more like 24, to where you're really taking a good look at some people and trying to get the best evaluations. And it might be something where, maybe they're the guys that are later commitments, not because they're 5-star elite offensive tackles like Fasusi, but guys that, you evaluate early, and you want to see what their projections are through this junior year, because a lot of these guys will take massive, massive leaps into their senior year.
Yeah. Now, you didn't mention Brett College, who I know you've done a review on.
Yeah.
He's out of IMG Academy. You've also got
And he's another one.
Pepe, and there's like 3 other guys. I think 1 more in 26 and 2 in 27. IMG Academy has a stacked offensive line the next 2 years. What are your thoughts? Do you think Oklahoma could try to go into IMG Academy and take a couple of these guys, or do you think the outlier of David Stone and Jaden Jackson isn't really going to apply for Oklahoma in IMG?
And I got to apologize, Breck. Apologize, man. My mouse is over your name. So so I completely whipped it on that one. But yeah, no, IMG is a place to where these guys go in to play advanced ball and to play against bigger competition and more stringent competition. So I fully expect to see the staff to continue to go down there, because you've got guys in Stone and Jackson who were there, played with some of these guys. Breck mentioned about Stone, in some of the conversations with him that I had. And so everybody's going to want to go play with Bill Beatonbow. Everybody wants to be coached like that and coached by a guy like him because the track record is phenomenal. But with offensive linemen and definitely higher end offensive linemen, you're seeing the market kind of shift with guys like Petty, committing to Georgia Tech and the rumor being somewhere around $800,000. Those things that's the part of the NIL stuff that you kind of have to be really, really careful with, because you don't want every single guy who's being told by multiple people that, he's worth, the next click up is 900,000. So that's what we need to watch out for. So it's about developing the relationships, finding out what the real key pressure points and, what the must-haves, are for some of these recruits. And IMG is a place where these guys are about football. That's why they go there, is to be better at football. And so I think that their way of life is a little bit more catered to what we're seeing here at Oklahoma.
All right. Well, hey, Coop, I appreciate you coming on. Where can everybody find yours and Jay's content?
Unfair Sports is the umbrella, name brand. We have Sooner or Later podcast also, which handles a little bit more of the recruiting stuff. So check us out on YouTube. We're always active on Twitter. PG always on with us too. So just look around, or just do a little magic Google. Google Unfair Sports. Jay and Coop, you'll find us.
All right. And if you guys made it this far, make sure you guys hit that like and hit that subscribe button.